Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Today we are going to take a look at a lineup of planetary transits that are happening across the Gemini Pisces axis this week. These are some of the biggest transits of the year, especially considering that this month of March is one of the most powerful months of the year with Saturn and Pluto changing signs. And right alongside of the entrance of Saturn into Pisces, we have this very powerful series of transits happening that are also sort of concluding the Mars retrograde, the whole cycle of Mars retrograde, both the direct and retrograde motion through the sign of Gemini. So we're going to take a look at a series of transits that are happening this week, and I'm going to give you 10 different ways of preparing for this transit archetypally that I hope you will find useful. Before we get into it, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell me what you're thinking and how you're relating to this transit in the comments section. It helps the channel to grow, which is really helpful. And you can always find a transcript of any of my daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. If you do have a really good story to share, by the way, use the hashtag grabbed or email us your story grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. We've got another storytelling episode coming up that I'm going to be putting together with some of your Saturn into Pisces stories. So especially as you're noticing Saturn's change into Pisces and how it's affecting you personally, please do share that story with us. I'd love to get some of those together in a storytelling episode coming up soon. Okay, well, let's take a look at the real-time clock first. Excuse me. Here we go. So impressive astrology this week. Let's start off by just looking at what's happening as the week begins. As the week begins, we have Mars moving into a square with Neptune. And we talked about that last week a little bit. So we're continuing to talk about that at the beginning of this week because the transit does not fully perfect. Today into tomorrow is really the perfection. So you'll see that energy of the Mars-Neptune square happening today into tomorrow. Oh, you know what? I did that thing again where it won't share. So let me, I know how to do this. I figured it out last time. Okay, here we go. So you can see here, I'll redraw it because I thought I was drawing it, but it wasn't. Okay, there's the square. And if we move this forward a day, you're going to see that there's some other transits that are forming at the same time. You have the sun coming into a conjunction with Neptune, while Mercury is also coming into a conjunction with the sun and with Neptune. And all of these planets are they're picking up the square from Mars as well. So if we watch this play out, the 13th through the 17th is just a huge period for us. We have this big lineup of planets that are going through the square with Mars. Take it forward another day, and now the sun, as Mars is still moving through the square to Neptune, this is Wednesday, March 15th, the sun is getting in on the action. So now you have the sun and Neptune both with the square to Mars in Gemini. And then if we take it forward to Friday, we're going to get between Thursday and Friday, Mercury moves through the conjunction to Neptune and also the square to Mars. And then by Friday, Mercury is also cazimi at the heart of the sun. And remember, Mercury is the ruler of Mars in Gemini and is also in the sign of its fall and detriment in Pisces. A more challenging place for Mercury doesn't mean there's nothing good or beautiful comes out of Mercury in Pisces. It's a lovely place, but it comes with some tensions, which will be part of what we discuss today. But then we have a cazimi moment, a moment of tremendous empowerment for Mercury, although Mercury's debilitated, but it's a kind of a reset moment for Mercury where Mercury's at the heart of the sun and gets the seal of the king, so to speak, and both are square to Mars. It finally starts to fade on Saturday, March 18th, when you see that now Mars is past Neptune and the sun and Mercury have separated and they are both past Neptune and they are both past Mars. You'll still feel this in the air really until the equinox, when the spring equinox, when the sun moves into Aries, at which point then things shift considerably because we're also very close to Mars finally leaving the sign of Gemini and is about to enter Cancer. And that is going to happen on March 25th. I think, does it happen the 25th? It might be late on the 24th. Let's just see. So yeah, it's going to happen early morning on March 25th that Mars finally changes sign. Since August, it will have been in the sign of Gemini. So But at any rate, the period that we're really looking at is going to be from March 13th, that's today, all the way through Friday, March 17th. And then you could take it a little bit into the weekend. So this massive lineup of planets. And the gist of it is that you have Mercury, the Sun, and Neptune all coming into a sort of triple conjunction while all going through a square to Mars in Gemini. And remember that Mars retrograde started off in Gemini as well. So this is a very powerful time for, it's like the grand finale of the Mars cycle. And it's also coming right on the heels of Saturn just entering the sign of Pisces, where Saturn is now commingling its presence with all of these planets. So for that reason, we're going to spend some time with these transits this week and really break them down from a variety of different angles. And then next week, we'll be spending more focused time with Pluto's entrance into Aquarius, which then comes right after. So it's like, it's just such a big month. And that's why I said this series of transits is really one of the bigger series that we have all year. So let's go ahead and look at 10 different themes to watch for. Some of these have some overlap, but I think they'll prepare you. And then what we're going to do is so we've got kind of the big picture view of what's going on this week. And then I'm going to narrow in on some more refined and specific themes as the week unfolds so that we can really spend time with these archetypes this week. All right, number one is delusions, illusions, and manipulation. I mean, one of the most basic things that can happen when you got Mercury in its fall square to its ruler Mars in Gemini is that there's a conflict of ideas or information. And with Neptune involved, it's hard to say sometimes what's true or what's real. What is a manipulation or distortion of information, ideas, words, and thoughts for the sake of, persuasion or making a sale or trying to evade responsibility, or, it's like it would be very possible for information to get stretched or warped or twisted or just kind of bent. The boundaries are a little bit more open. Things are a little bit more porous. And so the potential for manipulation or to not see things clearly or to not speak entirely clearly or to be led on in our actions by information that's only partially true could be a very intense part of what this week holds. Number two is emotionality versus rationality. There's a bunch of planets in water with a debilitated Mercury in a water sign whose strength is often emotional intelligence, not so much the sort of cerebral, mental, analytical type of intelligence. They're both useful and interesting, but you could also see a kind of clash between the two this week with Mars in an air sign, but hosted by Mercury debilitated in a water sign who's also combusted with Neptune and so forth. So how are our emotions and our emotional convictions and needs and drives and desires, our instinctual body, how are they telling us to act this week? And what is that kind of maybe big picture, objective, rational side of our brains telling us? And are they working together, or are they kind of butting heads this week? The tension between the emotional and the rational could be a pronounced part of these transits. So watch for that. Number three would be idealism and crusading. This is a transit. Anytime you get Mars and Neptune together, you have the potential to act on behalf of something that you're feeling very passionately about, as in a religious crusade, or the strength of your beliefs and convictions could be fueling your actions and motivating you to fight for something or advocate for something or defend something, all of which kind of have the Mars-Neptune flavor. But Mars is also getting the square from the Sun. And so Mars-Sun squares can also be about heroism. And with the Sun combining with Neptune and squaring Mars, you get kind of idealistic crusading for things, even if it's just temporary and you're fighting for the merits of the TV show that you think is so thoughtful and intelligent against a coworker who thinks it's just stupid. Like, it could be so mundane, but you could find yourself crusading for something that and fighting on behalf of something that you feel or think is ideal. Or driving towards something that you want or desire as an ideal image with like a little bit of I always say that Mars Neptune is the Joan of Arc signature. Go to battle on behalf of the vision that descends from above. Number four would be fuzzy logic, emotions appealing to reason, or reason recruiting emotions. Sometimes when you feel really strongly about something, you try to make the case that, well, I have all the reasons in the world to feel this way. So you start recruiting data and information that will support the strength of your convictions. Now, sometimes that's good. It's a good thing to do that. It's just intelligent to try to look and seek out for support in terms of why I'm feeling what I'm feeling and why it's okay to feel what I'm feeling. On the other hand, sometimes you'll do that as a way of trying to sidestep and avoid some kind of truth. And, maybe you don't, it's like, I don't want to face something. And I'm looking out, I'm cherry picking information to support something I feel that maybe is, sabotaging me on some level. Or the other way around can happen as well, where reason can recruit emotions. It's like, when people have something that, like people have something in their head that they think this is the best idea, this is the logical plan or whatever, and they're trying to get you on board with it, they'll try to persuade you using emotions. But underneath the surface might be a more calculated, cold, rational objective. So either emotions recruiting reason or reason recruiting emotions, you could see those at hand, as well as just kind of a fuzzy logic. And maybe the need to let go of logic on some level. I don't need to, I'm feeling my way through something. I don't necessarily need the world's most logical, reasons for doing what I do. Number 5 would be appearances versus substance, which you could say is also about walking the talk. Are you doing and acting in the way that you say you are, or are you presenting something but not living up to it? There's questions about, can I live up to a standard or an ideal? And then there are there's questions about how something appears, and like, is this real or is this authentic or not? Especially things that appear sort of heroic, and the potential to resent or feel jealousy toward things that, you say, like, that person's doing well, it must be fake. You know what I mean? Or that person is, that person's doing well. They must be taking advantage of people. You know what I mean? So the tendency to doubt someone else's success out of jealousy or a sense of bitterness, but also the potential to literally present things in a way that's not real or true somehow. So you can have like almost like the slimy salesman who's like, this is the best car you'll ever buy, and you're like, is this real? I don't think so. But then on the other hand, you could have people that, like someone who has a certain kind of fame or success, and you just assume that, well, they must be fake because they're famous, right? So that dichotomy can be really strong this week. And I would just urge people, remember that the tendency to scrutinize things and call them out as fake or unreal or lacking in substance or something like that, those impulses are not altogether harmless and like benign. Like that, there could be some shadows in the impulse that you have to criticize or scrutinize other people or things as phony, because there's the potential to be jealous of something that looks like an ideal. That's like, oh, that looks ideal. So there, and maybe because I desire an ideal that's similar, then I'm going to scrutinize that as somehow, maybe because it's unobtainable for me, like, for example, at least, I don't know, like at least, I don't know, probably a couple times a month, people who probably don't know any astrology at all just assume that because I have, I don't know, it's not a big YouTube channel, but I think it's, I guess it's like moderately big YouTube channel, 50,000+ subscribers. I get comments from people saying, that you're a charlatan, just because people who aren't really into astrology, I'm assuming in the cases that people say this, that they just look and they see someone who's like doing well as a professional astrologer, and they just assume that astrology is not real, and so the success must be rooted in that this person like fooling everyone, and they're like a fortune teller who's got some kind of trick up their sleeve. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? So you have to be careful of that because um, the potential to like project, and to be jealous or envious of something that appeals to you, but that someone else has or exists somewhere else. You say, well, that must be fake, or that they must have cut a corner, to be successful or something. So you can project that onto other people very easily. But on the other hand, there is a legitimate way in which this same transit can sometimes be about the corners cut and the phoniness. And so there's like a tension between those things this week to watch for. Number 6 is compassion, empathy, and action. So, how are how are your emotions and the quality of empathy driving actions? This has a kind of charitable, crusading, go to the rescue shelter and take the dog home kind of feeling behind it. So compassion, empathy, and the it's like the sacred, the heart of the sacred warrior, that kind of thing. Number 7 is water and ideas or policies related to water. Anything related to water and action or activity on behalf of water. There was some kind of policy that was just passed for the sake of ocean protection as Mars is coming into the square with Neptune. I thought that was interesting. Number 8 would be sacred doubt versus skepticism. Look, some people just, again, going back to the doubt thing, it's always a good thing in my experience to call your own beliefs and behaviors and patterns into question for the sake of learning and for the sake of growth and for the sake of getting to know, having some relationship with the unconscious. To say, am I sure about this? Am I sure about the way I present myself? Or am I sure about my likes and dislikes? Or am I sure that this is what I believe? And there's a way of doing that that is sacred because it's ultimately in service to the desire to keep learning and growing, so to speak. There's also a way in which we can call things into question compulsively. And you've been around people like this where they tend to have like a challenging, defiant, anti-authority, even their own on a certain level. That there's a sense of like nothing can be trusted, nothing is ultimately true. Anyone who presents a truth is full of crap, So the compulsive need to deny, negate, question, pull any kind of certainties or assertions about truth or feelings into question constantly, that tension between like the sacredness of our doubts and the need for doubt as a process, as a part of our spiritual lives, and then on the other hand, the tendency toward compulsive sort of deconstruction and skepticism and sort of defiant challenging of any truth. That cannot, that's probably not always a healthy thing. So the distinction between those two positions could be amplified this week. Number 9 would be acting on intuition. How do your feelings lead you along? Emotional intelligence is one of the maybe virtues of this combination. Our emotions can actually inform how we act, and our emotions feel into the living presence of things and how they relate to us. So emotional intelligence tends to be, relational, emotional, subtle, instinctual, and it picks up on information, but it's not picking up on it and processing it and making decisions in sort of a mental pecking order as much. It's not that it lacks reason, but it's reason in service or surrounding or almost like serving the process of feeling into the living web of our environment. So when we act on, there's lots of ways of talking about intuition. I'm talking about intuition here from a kind of a watery Piscean place, a Mercury in Pisces and conjoining with Neptune kind of place. And acting, of course, on intuition, developing or cultivating emotional intelligence could be one of the great blessings of this week. And number 10 would be any kind of rational defenses of mysterious, miraculous, religious, mystical, or magical events. You might see people saying, here's how we defend divination, or let me give you a rational defense or explanation of something that to some other person appears completely insane, like astrology, for example. I wouldn't be surprised if someone this week finds themselves trying to offer explanations as to how astrology works or why you have it in your life or something like that. But don't be surprised if reason comes into service of the mystical or magical this week as a defense. The same exact quality could be there trying to hoodwink people, persuade people to buy something that's irrational. So you can go either way. But I think one of the cool things would be to see reason in service of magic. That's an interesting combination as well. All right, so hopefully we have started the process of turning the archetypal jewels for the week. Can't wait to keep doing this. Got more videos to come. I hope you're off to a nice start to this week, and that you'll enjoy the rest of the content that we have planned. Before you leave, don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments. It helps the channel to grow. And as always, you can find a transcript if you want to read back through what's been spoken on the website, nightlightastrology.com. All right, have a good one. Bye.